Warning for my players, this contains spoilers for the upcoming campaign. So, it's free rambling rant time. I mean, it's not really a rant, it's just a DM explaining his world. So, free rambling DM explaining his world? Doesn't quite have the same ring. Either way, I'm here again for the first time in ages. I'm sorry my schedule has been very different, as I'm sure everyone else's has. And unluckily my computer is dying, so I'll try and get that sorted out soon. So, what am I talking about today? Well, I think I may have mentioned it in a previous video. Today, I will be making a video on the Deities, the Essences, and the two Towers. If you're interested in all of those, continue listening. But first, I need to explain a little bit more. In a previous video I had a diagram. It was of a circle, two circles within each other, effectively a donut shape, with two lines going to the center. You may have thought that those were just assist lines. Those are actually two pillars, almost. Two massive towers. 5,000 kilometers tall each, and at the very, very end there is a C shape, like a horseshoe or horseshoe magnet sort of shape, and these two towers almost meet, forming a ring in the center which is broken, just slightly on either side, and this break is only a couple meters wide. It's really small. Nobody knows who built these towers, how they were built, and in fact, if we're talking a little bit of a secret lore here, they probably weren't even built at all. They just existed since the beginning of the world. And we'll get into that later. I'm working on that bit of lore in some time here or there. But these two towers, what are they for, and how big are they, and where are they situated? Well, okay, they're situated in the country of Tako. Tako is this huge desert land. It's massive, it's almost a supercontinent sized, but it's situated in the center of Surat. If you imagine a donut and you strung that donut on a string or held it with your finger in the hole, and you spun the donut, everything that string would touch, or that your finger would be touching, everything in the center there, the central ring, is Tako. And because the sun never sets, the whole thing is in the never setting angles of the sun. The sun never sets in Tako, meaning that it is blisteringly hot. The sun has never set in hundreds, if not thousands, if not millions of years, meaning everything is baking hot. Yet some creatures have survived there. Those are the Takoi, and I will go over them in another video. But in the center of, well, you can't really say it's the center because it's a ring, 2 points of Tako, there are these towers. They look different to a lot of different people. Most of them just consider it to be black, shiny metal at the base. Some of them see it a bit more reflective, but they're generally just, it's a consensus that the towers are difficult to understand. Nobody even understands how that works. So, these difficult to understand towers. There are doors every couple 100 feet up, every 5 to 10 floors. There is a doorway which lets you into the tower. And if you start at the bottom, there are challenges, small challenges at the bottom, pitfall traps, or dart trap, which will do a d4 damage. And as you go up, the difficulty increases and increases and increases until you either die or learn from these towers. I will get back to the towers in just a minute. So what's at the top of these towers? Well, at middle sun, when the sun passes into the exact center of the donut, it is between these two rings. And this sun has a special property. The sun itself is only about the size of a baseball bat to a basketball bat, or maybe an exercise ball at most. Most people consider it there. Again, it changes depending on who's there. A smaller creature will see it as smaller, a larger creature will see it as larger. So in theory, if a dragon decided to come up there, it may be the size of a small cart or a very small building, or if a auric, I'll get to those in another video, a tiny goblin-like creature saw it, it may just be the size of a ping pong ball. Either way, it's always just large enough for the person to consume it. Again, not eat it, but that it passes into their face or into their chest. It just envelops them, and they envelop it, and they effectively form together. Then the creature is destroyed completely. Now, why would anyone go through everything to get up to the top of the tower? Well, there's a simple answer. Anyone who does this becomes an essence. What is an essence? Well, these are the deities to speak of in my world. They're not incredibly powerful, but in their domain, they have almost infinite power. But their domain is limited to the most core elements of a creature, and it has to be a unique core element. So some examples of this might be, it sounds strange, but if there was an ancient tribe of giants per se who built towers and pillars and pyramids based on these towers that they saw in the distance, and that was their religion, a worshipper of this tower who gets to the top may become the essence of pillars, or the essence of towers, and he would be the god of towers. Over the years, many people have got to the top. In fact, it's almost a tradition for the most incredible adventuring types to get to the top. I'll get to that again. There's other things you can be, like household appliances. It can be either one object of your choice, one action of your choice, or one non-physical, like, ideal. For example, truth, or parrying with a sword, or some sort of weapon, or the short sword as itself. These are all examples of deities that exist up there. And the tower is designed that if you come from the bottom, all of the puzzles and traps and fights and encounters and everything you face on the way up whittles you down to the smallest core elements of your being. It often feels like everything is just antagonistic, but if there's a bard who is entirely focused on sorrowful healing songs, that sad songs can heal you, then the whole way up his allies will be attacked and he will be forced to heal them so that he can survive. And sad things will happen to him until at the top he has almost forgotten everything except for the one thing that defined him. And then when he's at the top, he is almost entirely already a essence. He doesn't know it. Nobody ever knows it. When they get to the top, they are already the essence, just their local. When they join the sun, everyone on Surat gets to connect to it. See, there's another ability of these two towers. When the sun is in the center, all of the energy of the sun, for just a nanosecond, flickers out as it's sucked into those two C shapes, this ring around it. All of the heat, the energy, the light, everything is sucked out and sent to the core of the planet. There's a massive ring in the center, and the core of the planet is then heated by this, and geothermal energy and everything comes actually again from the sun. But it also means all the essences that are now in the sun are also spread throughout the whole world. So in theory you could be an essence that gets to the top and doesn't consume the sun or isn't consumed by the sun. Then in theory you would be an avatar almost, a creature that walks around with infinite power of its niche. It's an interesting thought. They don't exist in my world, but your interpretation of the world, it might. Again, feel free to use this or these ideas however you like. So, these challenges whittle you down as you get to the top. Often, they start out being the opposite of you, forcing you to prove that you are the opposite of it, antagonistically so. And then eventually it builds with you. It gives you things that help you, that enforce your ideas until you get to the top. And that is how you become an essence. There are a couple other ways of becoming an essence. Either you get to the top by some other means, and then you'll probably just be destroyed by the heat of the sun. Nobody knows why you don't if you go up through the tower, but in theory you could get up there. You could be within that 2C shapes, within the ring, the central ring, you're safe. So if you could get there via some complex magic or something, in theory you could skip the towers. And the other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the Dairar. The Dairar are inspired by the D&D Aasimar or Aasimar. I don't know how to pronounce it, it's a strange name. So the Aasimar are angel kin, or half-angels, and I wanted there to be something similar, something akin to this. So, the Dairar were created. The Dairar are a group of people, very simple people. They can be from anywhere around the world, whose parents or direct relations got to the top of the tower. If they did this, then you instantly become a Dairar with some essence of that person. For example, in our game that I'm also publishing on this video channel, you should definitely watch that as well. Lord Smythe is actually a Dairar. It's an interesting thing to talk about. He was Dairar of a specific branch of political thought, and it can be anything. There's even a god of narwhal blubber and alcohol, which is then brewed from this blubber. It's a long story, maybe for another time. If you want it, just write in the comments and I'll do an explanation of that. But yeah, these Dairar instantly transform. So it's effectively an instant communication to show that your family or the person who got to the top succeeded. And this is also really incredible. Gray in the campaign is part Dairar. He is not a Dairar. I think his grandfather went to the top of the tower, so his grandfather was a Dairar, and his great-grandfather got to the top of the tower. And you think, okay, often adventures are easier with multiple people, so adventuring groups, if they get to the top and they're not unified by one characteristic or one group dynamic, then they're most likely going to be killed. If they're not killed and do get to the top, and they have let's say, a group dynamic, they'll become a pantheon of essence. They'll all be their own people, but they will be able to interact with each other. There's a little known secret about the essences, which is that they're actually very separate from the world. In fact, they lose pretty much all connection to it. They effectively die. But when you have clerics and other holy classes like the paladin, for example, or the sorcerer has a subclass, the holy sorcerer or something. If you have some connection, or if you are a Dairar, you will have something of their essence. But it's not actually as good as it's made out to be. In fact, many people who get to the top are almost forced to be consumed by the sun, because at that point there is nothing of them left. They are just that one thing, and they're driven at that point almost insane. They are just driven to the point where they have to finish it because they have nothing left. In fact, they don't believe there was anything. They're completely broken, except for that one thing which defined them. So becoming an essence is not always the most positive thing. But if you're running a campaign in this setting, which I really, really hope someone does, I'd be incredibly happy if someone does this, or even if you just take one or two ideas, that'd be great. But anyway, if your players are trying to get to the top, don't make it easy.